Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we are going to be reviewing, ta-da, Patrick Ta's Major Dimension 2 palette. So, yes, that. So I actually skipped out on the Major Dimension 1 palette, mostly just because it was a lot of like and I'll put a little like picture up here so you can just see kind of for reference what it was. It was a lot of the neutral bronzy tones. For me, I do actually have quite a few palettes in that shade range, and it's not what really entices me to go out and buy an eyeshadow palette, but when he released this one and I saw it online, I was like, gosh dang it. So for everyone who has been watching my channel for a while, you know I love like my pink eyeshadows, mauve tones, like that is my favorite kind of eyeshadow color story. And so when he released this one, I was like, all right, Patrick, you got me. Here we go. Here's the eyeshadow. It is the typical Patrick Ta packaging. Everything that he does is in this beautiful rose gold. I have the eyebrow wax and also a couple of his blushes, which I really like. Unfortunately, I will say the thing about his packaging is that it's very fingerprint prone. But that's what you get for having this beautiful, shiny rose gold packaging. So here is the eyeshadow palette. Obviously, as we zoom in here and take a look at the colors, you can probably tell, like, yeah, there was no way that I was not getting this palette, because I was like, yeah, I'll use everything in here. What it looks like is it has two cream eyeshadows here, which I'm planning on using these as a base. And then the bottom row here are mattes. And then the top ones here, the top row here, looks to me like they are some sort of either... Well, actually, it's kind of interesting. The texture of these four here look quite different than the darkest shade here. The darkest shade here looks more like a shimmer shade. The rest of these look like they're going to be quite metallic instead. So let's go ahead and give these a swatcheroo, and we will get to testing it on my eyes. And here we are with the swatches. Holy moly, is this formula super, super pigmented. Everything is showing up really, really nicely in these swatches. These are the two cream shades, which I was actually quite surprised. For some reason, when I was like digging my finger into them, I kind of thought that they would be somewhat like stiffer for some odd reason, but they're not. They're very, very creamy, very emollient feeling, so I like that. I'm definitely going to use those as a base. I do want to say also, in terms of packaging, I do like that the creams have a cover on them, just so that as you use the palette, you can kind of protect your cream shade so that the powder doesn't infiltrate into the cream and it doesn't get all like muddy and mucky and gross. So I really, really like that. The shimmer shades are very interesting. These three here actually do have quite a bit of color payoff. You can actually see that here across in these three swatches, and that's super, super gorgeous. I love this peachy like gold shade. This is absolutely beautiful. And then the last two shimmers here, these actually I feel like are more of that glitter topper shade, so they don't have that much color payoff to them, but you can definitely layer that on top of other colors, and I think it would give it a really, really beautiful like shift to it and kind of just switch up anything. So like, for example, if you wanted to layer any of the matte shades just as like a one eyeshadow look and then stick one of these shimmer shades on top, I think it would be so beautiful. For the mattes, this brown felt so luxe, like just really, really nice formula. The one that did make me a little bit nervous was actually this shade here, which is more of that terracotta like red-ish kind of a brownish red. That one, it just felt a little bit more chalky to me, so I'm a little bit nervous about it. I definitely want to try that one out today. And then this one here just was a little bit of a strange swatch. You can see that it got really, really dark here when I was layering it, and then it just kind of faded really quickly. So I had to go back and swatch this one twice just to kind of see like what was going on there. Just a couple of things to note about swatches, but as you know, swatches are not the end-all be-all for eyeshadow palettes, because the way that they swatch is not necessarily how it's going to show up on your eye or the way that it's going to perform, because with eyeshadows, you do have to make sure that the most important thing is that not only do they show up on your eye, but that they blend out really, really well as well. That's kind of confusing. I feel like there was a lot of wells in one phrase there. Let's get to trying this, yeah? Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to actually take this cream eyeshadow, the lighter one here, and forgive me, I'm really bad at telling like you the name of the eyeshadows. I would rather just point to them, mostly just because I don't know, I always struggle with like trying to read the names on the back. It's just drives me nuts. So I will obviously point to all of the shades that I use, but let's go ahead and try this one, the cream out here. I'm actually tempted to use my finger and lay this down, and then what we'll do is we'll use a brush to kind of blend that out. Now that you are close enough that you can see every single pore and freckle and anything that's wrong with my skin, let's go ahead and get started. So here we go. Yeah, do you see how it's like, it's so creamy. It's very, very interesting formula here. So, and I don't have anything on my lids right now. We are just starting in with a blank slate here. And I'm just gonna tap this in and blend it out as much as I can. And that just smoothed on beautifully. Wow. I have a little bit of creasing on my eyelid now. Dude, getting old, man. It's like weird. But anyway, so I'm curious to see if this will act as a primer to really kind of help that powder eyeshadow lay down really well and stop things from creasing and moving around on my eyelid. And as you guys know, as per usual, when I do any sort of review where I'm testing things for a really long time, I will be trying out this palette all week, and I will come back at the end of the week to tell you my final thoughts. So make sure you stay tuned for that part. Now, actually, that blended out super easily. I'm actually quite impressed with this. I don't think that as a cream eyeshadow, it's the most pigmented cream eyeshadow that I've ever used, but if you're just using this as a primer to kind of start building that color on top with the powder and mixed in with the cream, I think this is a really nice place to start. So this looks good, and it looks like it has dried down to a pretty dry to the touch. I think the powders will blend really well on top. Just like my last eyeshadow review where I did the e.l.f. and Dunkin' Donuts one, I'm gonna just speed this along so that you can kind of see what colors I use. I'll obviously point to them, but this way it kind of stops the video from being like 30 minutes long. I can kind of condense it down. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay everyone, and this is the first impressions final look of the Patrick Ta Major Dimensions 2 palette. A couple of things to note. Fallout is definitely a thing on this palette. I actually took... It's not that big of a deal, but I did end up taking the powder brush that I used to set my under eyes. I did take this and kind of just swipe it across at the very bottom to get rid of some of the powder that fell onto the rest of my face. So just be aware of that. His mattes do blend out really nicely. They are very smooth. The color payoff is really nice. Even this burgundy shade that I was a little bit more concerned about, I was actually quite impressed with the way that it blended out. I think that it actually made everything just that perfect, warm, smoky look, which I really liked. I didn't have any issues where I had that problem where sometimes it like sticks to one place and you can't blend it out. None of that happened with the mattes, which I really like. So I would definitely say between the eyeshadow swatches that we have here, the mattes definitely stayed very true to the swatches. Performance-wise, really great. Let's talk about the shimmer shades. So obviously I didn't get a chance to try this one, which I'm super excited to try just because I think that it's going to be absolutely beautiful. It has more of a shimmer, like kind of a tone to it, and I'm curious to see, because a lot of the other eyeshadow palettes that I have that have attempted to try to do this dark color with like that pink shimmer in it, usually what ends up happening is that the dark color just covers that pink shimmer and the pink shimmer doesn't actually transfer onto your lid. So I'm curious to see how that one goes. I probably will wear that one when I come back on Friday to give you my final thoughts, just so you can see what it looks like on camera, and you can kind of see if you can see like that pink shift on my eye. So I'll definitely let you guys know about that. Now let's talk about application. So I'm sure if you watched the part where I sped through everything and I was trying to apply all of the different colors, or as many as I could incorporate into this look, I will say these two here are very, very soft, and they apply beautifully with your fingers. Everything went really, really well. I actually have this gold shade on the inner, like kind of on the inner corner, and then to really brighten everything just on my tear duct here, I have this shade, which turned out really, really beautifully. Now let's talk about the shade that I struggled hardcore with. So it is this one, and I am being kind of tough on this eyeshadow palette just because I really, really like pink shades. Pink shades generally for me, I don't know, I just have more experience with them, which is why I feel like I can be a little bit tougher in my critique on this, and so that's why I'm going a little bit harder in on this. But anyway, so for this one, I tried it with a dry brush, which I didn't think was going to be successful anyway. Tried to pick up some of that color, got absolutely nothing on my eyelid. So then I was like, okay, fail safe. Let's go in with my ring finger here, grabbed that color, tried to apply it to my eye. Again, nothing kind of showed up. I feel like I actually was trying so hard to get that color to lay down that I removed some of the matte shade that I already had on my eye. So that was kind of a huge bummer. And it wasn't until I ended up using a wet brush to do it. So what I did was I grabbed and really dug my brush into this peachy color here and really, really picked up that pigment, and then I sprayed it with a setting spray. This is the Beauty Blender Redo Set and Refresh spray that I just had on hand. So that was the only way to apply that color and to get it to actually look and lay down. Because even if you look at the swatch, right? So this is the part that really surprised me, because I thought the swatch was so beautiful. So I was like, oh, it's definitely going to apply great with my fingers, but that was totally not the case. What ended up happening was when I used my finger, I feel like I didn't get any of this peachy undertone here that you can see. What I ended up getting was just like a little bit of the gold shimmer, but barely even that. So this shade to me was the most upsetting, because I have so many other palettes where they do this peachy gold shift really, really well. The one that comes to mind is Pat McGrath. Her Mothership, I think number 7, has a shade where it does that pink gold shift super, super well. And also the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette also has a shade that is very similar to this that definitely outperformed it. I do think that with the wet brush it ended up being just fine. I do think you can actually see it on my eye now. It's this color right here, and it is quite beautiful, but the fact that I was like, how do I apply this? It was kind of like one of those moments where I was like, oh dear God. For the most part though, really enjoyed this eyeshadow. I do think it for the most part performed really well. I obviously love my pink tones so much, so yeah, we're gonna see how this goes for the rest of the week. I'm excited about the fact that it has these creams. Actually, let me take a look really quick and just see how, yeah, I mean, everything so far, I've only been wearing it now for like, what, 5 minutes? So it's hard to tell exactly what that performance is of the cream eyeshadow, because I am hoping to use that just as a primer, but so far so good. And we will be back at the end of the week with my final thoughts. I will have worn these eyeshadows for a whole day, so I can really come back and tell you like, hey, yeah, this definitely holds up, or spend your money elsewhere. So yeah, we will see. All right, see you guys in a couple of days, or more specifically 5 days. Hey everyone, welcome back. It is Friday, so thank goodness for that. Let's get to talking about my final thoughts on the Patrick Ta Major Dimension 2 palette. Don't like the packaging. It's super fingerprinty, but it just tells you how many times I was picking it up this week to try it out, so. All right, a couple of things that I wanted to follow up on. So the first thing is that I wanted to use this shade here. for my eye look, which is what I have on my eyelids now. This is a lovely shade. He totally nailed the dark eyeshadow with the pink shift to it. I think it's just really beautiful. A lot of the eyeshadows that try and mimic something like this end up just being super dark, and you don't actually get that pink shift that really shows up, but I think it's really, really lovely. He did a great job. Let's talk about the cream eyeshadows. I actually feel that these are phenomenal primers for the formulas that are in here. Now, obviously, I haven't tried layering other eyeshadow formulas over these cream shades here, but they definitely made the eyeshadow last all day. I felt like the staying power of his eyeshadows are also pretty on point. I would say that for the most part, by the time I was washing my makeup off at night, I still had a significant eyeshadow look on, and nothing creased, nothing looked weird, nothing bunched up on my eye, and I didn't have like those weird lines that you sometimes get with creasing. So all of it was pretty good performance-wise. Now, I do want to talk about the one technique I found, or not necessarily a technique, but what I found to really help with these glitter shades here. So I actually found that they performed best when I used a glitter primer besides using just the cream primer. So I would use a cream shadow and then use a matte shade to really blend that out into, for lack of a better term, like my eye socket. And then what I would do is I would take a really, really thin layer of, for example, this is the NYX glitter primer, which I really like. I would take a thin layer of this and then just dab it on to where I knew I was going to lay down one of these glitter shadows, and then it worked a lot better. Obviously for this peachy shade, in order to get that peach tone to really show up, I still recommend using a wet brush with that, but I just found that for staying power wise, I really do think that these glitter shadows kind of do need some kind of a primer that's a little bit more targeted to holding glitter in place versus just holding like a shimmer or a metallic color, if that makes sense. So all in all though, I actually really enjoyed this palette. Now, did it inspire me to go out and purchase his Major Dimension 1 palette, the original one? Well, it's currently sold out, so like I couldn't get it anyway, but the answer is no. I don't think I'm gonna go back and purchase it, but I do really enjoy this palette from Patrick Ta, and I'm curious to see what he comes out with later on down the line. I feel like most makeup brands that I've seen lately, their first eyeshadow palette that they'll release is that kind of like neutral, very beautiful brown shades, and then the next one they'll do is pink. And so I'm curious to see what the brands do next in terms of like your third eyeshadow release, you know what I mean? I'm personally hoping for more cool toned because I love cool toned eyeshadows. It's just, it's a thing. So anyway, that pretty much finishes up this review. I would definitely say if you are looking for a pink eyeshadow palette and you are willing to pay the Patrick Ta prices, this is not bad. This was actually really fun to play with. I had a great time trying it out all week. And minus the few snafus where I was kind of like, I don't, what's up with this one shade, that peachy shade. Other than that, it went really well. So, and actually, even after I figured out how to use that shade, it still went really well. It was just that one moment where I was like, what's happening here? So the other thing also, by the way, is that I did go back and look at the footage from when I was trying to apply that one shade. It actually wasn't bad. It wasn't as bad as I thought when I was applying it. Like, you still can see a little bit of like the gold shimmer, but what really like I wanted to see was that peach color come through, which didn't come through until I used it wet. So just, I don't know, I feel like I'm harping on that one shade, but that's because it was like, I don't know, traumatizing? It wasn't traumatizing. That's too dramatic. It was just interesting. It was an interesting experience. So, all right, that pretty much finished this video. I feel like I've been rambling, so I will close it out. If you like this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you guys next week for next week's makeup adventure. Okay, it really is Friday. All right, bye. Also, one more thing, thank you for watching. Okay, now it's really bye. Goodbye.